Madam Deputy Clerk, it's time 7:01. I'm going to call this public planning meeting to order. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territories of the Chippewas of Chino Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands. As a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. Further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties in 1923. Shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councilor Gallo, Councilor Thompson, any comments or questions? Call the vote. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Well, welcome to Aurora's public planning meeting. The purpose of this public meeting is to inform the public and obtain public input regarding the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application. For the planning application that will be considered by council tonight, the following process will occur. 1, town planning staff will outline the purpose of the planning application being considered. 2, then the applicant will be given an opportunity to make a presentation and address issues raised in the staff report or public concerns already filed. 3, following these presentations, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments or concerns respecting the item virtually or in person and may speak twice for up to 5 minutes each time. And 4, following comments from members of the public, I will then ask members of council for their comments. It is very important that the town receive the correct names and addresses of the individuals having an interest in the planning application. Therefore, if you plan to speak to council at this meeting, or if you wish to be notified of any further council or committee meetings concerning the application being considered, you must complete a planning interested party and speaker request form available on the town's website at aurora.ca/planning notices, or contact Planning and Development Services by email at planning@aurora.ca, or complete a green interested party form. I'm just holding it up and leave it with our committee coordinator sitting at the front. Under the Planning Act, only the applicant has the right to appeal any decision of council on a planning application to the Ontario Land Tribunal. This public meeting is being audio and video recorded. Names, addresses, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public, including the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk, Town of Aurora. I will now ask the Deputy Town Clerk to confirm that notification to the public has occurred as required by the Planning Act. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Respecting item 5.1, report number PDS 25090, application for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, Aurora-Leslie Developments Limited, 25 and 55 Addison Hall Circle, blocks 29 and 30, plan 65M4650, file number OPA 2025-06, ZBA 2025-06. A notice of public planning meeting was published in the local newspapers, posted on the town's website, and given by mail to all addressed property owners within a 120-meter radius of the subject lands. 2 notice of public planning meeting signs were posted directly on the subject property. Public notification has been provided in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. I will now ask Director of Planning and Development Services to begin with the presentations. Mr. Romano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll ask our Senior Planner, Antonio Greco, to provide an overview of the applications, and then we can turn it over to the applicant's planning consultant, Mr. Nick Pileggi. Antonio.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, members of the public. My name is Antonio Greco, and I'm a senior planner with the town. Before us tonight is the statutory public planning meeting for the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment for the properties municipally known as 25 and 55 Addison Hall Circle. The subject lands consist of 2 parcels, 25 and 55 Addison Hall Circle, which are also identified as blocks 29 and 30 within registered plan of subdivision 65M 4650. Both blocks are generally situated at the southeast corner of Leslie Street and Addison Hall Circle. 25 Addison Hall Circle has a lot area of approximately 2.73 hectares, and 55 Addison Hall Circle contains a lot area of approximately 1.7 hectares. The cumulative lot area for both parcels is approximately 4.43 hectares or 10.92 acres. The subject lands provide for a lot frontage of 260 meters along Addison Hall Circle and 150 meters along Leslie Street. Directly north of the subject lands are vacant, undeveloped business park blocks, municipally known as 45 and 85 Monarch Park Gate, and a commercial/industrial building to the northeast being 455 Addison Hall Circle. To the south, we can find environmentally protected lands and the town of Aurora water tower slightly southeast of the subject property. To the east are vacant undeveloped block 75 Addison Hall Circle, which is currently subject to a site plan application under file number SP 2025-04 for a multi-tenant industrial building. To the west is Leslie Street and a residential community located on the west side of Leslie Street with a mix of uses including condominium apartment and other low-density residential uses. The subject lands are designated business park under Schedule B of the Town of Aurora official plan. The business park designation can also be found surrounding the property to the north and to the east, being the remainder of the Addison Hall Business Park. The medium-high urban residential and mixed-use designations are also currently present on the west side of Leslie Street, and environmentally protected lands are also immediately south, extending to the west side of Leslie Street. So this slide provides an overview of just the growth management for the town of Aurora. So by 2051, the population is expected to reach 85,800, while the number of jobs is anticipated to increase to 41,600. Considering the town's current employment base of 29,600 in 2021, this represents a need to accommodate approximately 12,000 additional jobs by the year 2051. Section 11.31F of the town's official plan requires that development within the employment areas be planned to achieve the minimum density of 55 jobs per hectare within the developable area. The above figure identifies the employment areas in the town where this minimum density target applies. Consideration for other land use permissions must not affect the town's ability to achieve this employment density target across the entire employment area. So all the area outlined in blue. The subject lands are currently zoned Business Park Exception Zone 443, Business Park Exception Zone 445, and Business Park within the town's zoning bylaw. The Business Park Exception Zone 445 and Business Park zones apply to 25 Addison Hall Circle, while the Business Park Exception Zone 443 and Business Park applies to 55 Addison Hall Circle. The intent of the Business Park Zone is to support a wide range of high-quality employment uses, which was developed through the overall creation of the Addison Hall Business Park. The Exception Zone 443 permits all principal and accessory uses allowed in the EBP parent zone with additional permissions for medical offices/clinics. It also establishes specific building, siting, and landscaping requirements. The Exception Zone 445 permits all principal and accessory uses outlined in the EBP parent zone with additional permissions for a motor vehicle repair garage, medical clinics, offices, religious institutions, restaurants, commercial or private schools. This zone also has tailored building sightings and landscaping requirements. The applicant proposes to redesignate the subject lands from business park to medium-high urban residential with a site-specific area to permit for the development of the townhouse dwelling units on a common elements condominium road. The applicant proposes to rezone the subject lands from business park BP zone, including exception zone 443 and 445, to townhouse dwelling residential R8 exception zone. The R8 site-specific provision seeks to include increased maximum height, reduced front yard setback, reduced amenity area, and reduced visitor parking. As part of the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications, the applicant has provided a conceptual site plan. The conceptual site plan demonstrates a residential development consisting of 183 dwelling units organized into 32 blocks, each block containing between 4 to 8 units. The proposed development will be accessed via two-vehicular full movement from Addison Hall Circle, which connects to an internal private road network. All the proposed townhouse units can accommodate for 2 cars in the garage. For the easterly townhouse blocks abutting block 31, in addition to the 2-car garage, the driveway can also accommodate 2 additional parking spaces per unit. So essentially, those easterly townhouse blocks can accommodate for 4 cars in total. Visitor parking has been distributed throughout the site with a total of 46 spaces provided, including 8 barrier-free spaces. This slide provides some examples that were illustrated within the urban design brief that were provided by the applicants with their first submission. Staff have identified the following matters to be addressed: conformity to the provincial policies and other planning policies with regards to using employment lands for residential purposes, review of the proposed site-specific zoning standards, ensuring employment job targets are met, availability of municipal servicing capacity, the feasibility of providing a parquet within the proposed residential development, and ensuring that all technical matters are addressed with at the site plan approval process. Next steps in the planning process: receive council feedback, and when appropriate, a staff report with recommendations will be presented at a future committee of the whole for consideration. All interested parties will be notified for any updates relating on the application, and any further planning applications will be subject to the approval of the land use amendments before us tonight. Thank you, and I remain available for any further questions.
Thank you, Antonio. Mr. Ramon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, we can ask planning consultant for the applicant, Nick Pileggi, to come forward.
Mr. Pileggi, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Nick Pileggi. I'm a partner with Macaulay Shiomi Housen here in Aurora. And I'm here tonight on behalf of Aurora-Leslie Developments Limited, also known as Treasure Hill Homes, to provide a brief presentation on the proposal. So the subject property is located on the east side of Leslie Street on the south side of Addison Hall Circle. It's comprised of 4.43 hectares of land, or just under 11 acres, and was approved for employment uses as part of a larger plan of subdivision. So Treasure Hill has submitted applications for official plan and zoning bylaw amendment to change the designation from the current employment designation to residential. So the lands are currently vacant and undeveloped. To the south, there is an environmentally protected area with a woodlot. There's also the water tower just to the southeast of the lands, and further south is the Smart Centers, commercial, Walmart, and a number of other tenants there. To the east is a vacant industrial property that's yet to be developed. A site plan application, we understand, has been filed on that property, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. That's for a warehouse use, and then First Commerce Drive is further to the east. To the west is Leslie Street, and obviously west of that is the residential community there. On the north side of the connecting road there is some 4-story mid-rise residential, and on the southwest corner of that intersection is the retirement homes. So this is the current plan of subdivision that the subject lands lie within. The site is comprised of those two blocks, block 29, which is located at the southeast corner of Leslie and Addison Hall and is 2.73 hectares, and block 30, which is 1.7 hectares, making up the total 4.43 hectare property. The total subdivision was 33 blocks and about 77 hectares. So these are some photos of the area. The top left is a view to the south, looking at the environmentally protected lands to the south. The one at the top right is a shot across Leslie Street, which is looking at the retirement homes, approximately mid-rise building there. And then the one on the bottom left is also the mid-rise buildings on the northwest corner of the intersection of Addison Hall and Leslie with the 4-story mid-rise. And then the bottom right is a view to the northeast corner of Addison Hall and Monarch Park Gate, where a new industrial building has been built just recently. So I think council's pretty aware of the process and where we're at right now. So we've obviously gone through a pre-consultation meeting, filed the application that's been deemed complete. We're currently receiving comments as they come in. We had a community information meeting in mid-August that was sparsely attended. And then tonight we're here at the statutory public meeting. So I know Antonio's run through a lot of the policies, so I'll try and go through these slides relatively quickly. Everything from provincial policy with the PPS, the provincial planning statement, the region's official plan, which is now part of your official plan, and then both the old and new official plans of Aurora we had to look at as part of our applications. I think the bigger picture question, which Antonio sort of went through a little bit, is, the question of whether the town has enough employment lands to meet their job growth. And I can say that, we've done an analysis there, and I'll touch on that a little bit. So similar to the town's official plan, the Region of York official plan designates the site as an existing employment area. And similarly, the town's 2024 town structure plan designates the site as employment, and you can see where that fits in relation to the larger residential area to the west. So while we're proposing a residential designated greenfield designation, that's similar to what's located immediately across the road. Similarly with the land use plan, again, across the road where you've got the retirement home and the mid-rise buildings, we're proposing a medium to high urban residential designation that's consistent with the designation on the west side of Leslie. And then again, from a zoning perspective, we're proposing townhouses. I'll get into the concept plan in a minute. And so we're proposing that the existing business park zones are going to be rezoned to townhouse dwelling residential with exceptions. So this is the conceptual site plan for the two blocks. The proposal includes 183 townhouse dwelling units that are 3-story townhouses. They're all rear and interior lane access townhouses. The south property of the boundary has units that face the open space system to the south, and they have access off of the private lane road to the north of them. Along the east property line, where you can see that there's a building ghosted in on the plan here, those properties are separated from that warehouse industrial building by a minimum separation distance of 20 meters. That's actually 20 meters to the stairs at the front of the building. It's closer to 23 meters to the actual building face. The 20-meter landscaped area there is proposed to meet the minimum separation distance to abutting employment lands. And again, garages are located on the other side of the unit. Each of the units has a 2-car garage with a minimum of 2 parking spaces. So the minimum requirement for parking for townhouses in the town is 1.5 spaces per unit. So while you'll see that one of the proposals you'll see in the staff report is that there's a slight reduction to the visitor parking spaces. But overall, the permitted parking is supposed to be, the requirement's 1.5, and we're proposing more than 2 spaces per unit. And so that's the bit of the offset where we look like we have less visitor parking, but overall we are meeting the parking requirement. So Antonio had shown a couple of the options from the urban design brief. These are some other examples of the lane-based townhouses. So if you look at the top left, there's the lane-based townhouses with a terrace above the garage. So you can see how the parking areas are not as pronounced because of those terraces that cover part of the parking areas. And then there are different examples of the units that front, like the top right, sorry, where the units are fronting right on the street and there's lane access townhouses. And then bottom left is sort of a more typical street townhouse look. So in terms of the employment land conversion, the PPS, the region official plan, and the town's 2 official plans all apply. We've done an analysis that has to meet the criteria that's on the screen in front of you. That's that there's a need for the conversion. I think the most important question is there's sufficient land available for the town to meet their long-term employment numbers, that it doesn't affect the overall viability of the employment area, that the infrastructure is in place, that it doesn't impact the provision of jobs, and that the lands are not provincially significant. So as I mentioned, we did have to do a land-based, a land economic analysis, and that's been submitted to the town. It's under review. We've received some minor comments on that we're looking at responding to, but it does conclude that the town does have sufficient land in your employment areas to not only meet, but likely exceed the job numbers. So on top of the employment land analysis, we also had to do all of the typical studies for servicing, stormwater management, land use compatibility. So the land use compatibility study did look at the neighboring employment uses and the roads. Obviously, Leslie Street's a busy road, and the employment building to the east. So the building to the east, we've looked at that. That building is a warehousing building. There's no loading proposed on the west side of that building. There's only man doors proposed there. And our noise study and compatibility studies looked at that and has said that we have no issues from the perspective of compatibility. We've also done the urban design brief and the traffic impact study. So in summary, what's before council is an application for an official plan amendment to redesignate lands from business park to medium and high urban residential. That does represent a change to your employment area to permit the residential uses. Again, the application is for a 183 unit condominium townhouse. Similar to the official plan amendment, there's a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone from the business park to a townhouse exception zone for the condo townhouses. As I mentioned a couple times, the employment land analysis has been completed in support of the proposed change to residential uses. And it does conclude that the town will be able to meet its employment targets with the land that's remaining. This does support complete communities. It does help us to achieve more housing in the town, and it does represent an efficient land use. So as I said, we're currently receiving comments as they're coming in from staff and outside agencies. We're going to be receiving and addressing those comments along with the comments that we receive at this meeting. We'll make any revisions that might be required to the plans and studies and resubmit those for additional review, and then look forward to a staff recommendation report that comes back to council. That was all for me this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll open it to the members of the public. Are there any members of the public? Anybody online, Matt? Nope. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion of this meeting. Council, the recommendations that report number PDS 25-090 be received, and two, that the comments presented at the statutory public planning meeting be addressed by Planning and Development Services in a report to a future committee of the whole meeting. Someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Gilliland, thank you. Seconder? Councillor Weiss, thank you. Any comments or questions to the applicant or to the report? Councillor Gilliland, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about this application. There's a few questions through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Ramuno. I do like the fact that the applicant has put together some studies in regard to the economic offset, but through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno. I guess my real question is, in your opinion at this time, and I know it's preliminary because there's work to do, can staff clarify whether or not this application will put Aurora at risk of falling short or official plan requirements of the 55 jobs per hectare in the employment areas, and how much employment land capacity remains elsewhere in town?
Mr. Romero?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So you've heard the applicant mention that they, as part of the background studies, they had to submit a employment land analysis to demonstrate that the application for redesignating employment land to residential will not impact our ability, the town's ability to meet its long-term employment job forecasts. Their report identifies that based on the amount of land that we have left, that vacant employment land, we've got approximately 100 hectares of vacant employment land. Majority of that is within the business park along the Leslie Street corridor. We've got some vacant parcels elsewhere in town. So their analysis identifies that this redesignation won't impact our ability to achieve our long-term forecasts. Our current official plan identifies, in a way of population employment forecast to the year 2051, that we will achieve a population of 85,000 people and 41,000 jobs. Their analysis identifies that we should exceed that 41,000 jobs number. Our current number of jobs within the town is approximately 30,000. So in a future report, we will finalize our own analysis with respect to our ability to achieve those forecasts. At this point, I can say that we are on track to achieve our one job for two residents. That's currently what we have now, and based on the amount of vacant land that we have, and moving forward with respect to some of these sites being developed with a more intensification from a jobs perspective, we're on track to meet our projections, if not exceed those. But again, when I report back with a final report, we'll complete our analysis. But based on the applicant's analysis, they're identifying that we will be able to meet and perhaps even exceed our forecasts. They are a minimum. The 41,000 is a minimum in our OP, similar to our population numbers of 85,000.
Councillor?
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do look forward to some more information coming back, especially now that we are looking after more of the planning aspect versus the region, since those changes have occurred. So we're looking at this situation more on a municipal level, more so than ever before. I know Councillor Thompson was always very adamant and protective of the 2C lands when it came to employment. Councillor Gallo, same thing. And it's always important to have these conversations to see what does that future look like down the road. The other question I had through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Ramuno is about the servicing capacity and whether there's sufficient servicing with the wastewater and water capacity for these homes. Because I know this is something that's been a hot topic, and it would be, important to ask these questions now.
Mr. Romero?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the applicants only submitted an OP and zoning. It's really a policy change to redesignate the lands. They haven't submitted a formal site plan. We've got a conceptual site plan. But as council is aware, we would allocate servicing capacity if we were to approve a future site plan application for the residential. Currently, we're limited with respect to our available servicing allocation, but we're expecting a report from the region this fall. And, in the medium term, we with the Northern York sewer expansion, we will have additional capacity to meet our long-term needs, but currently, we have some constraints. But again, at this point, we're just dealing with the OP and zoning, but moving forward, we should receive additional allocation from the region. We're expecting a report this fall.
Counselor?
Thank you. I guess in respect to that, for me, I'm consistent in the fact that I'm also obviously a proponent of additional housing that we really need in our community. This is definitely something that I would be in support of. However, I certainly don't want to ignore the fact that we have a long-term job targets rate in our community as well. And so I think we have to have careful attention to analyze both sides of the coin. Through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Ramuno or maybe the applicant, one of the big concerns I had with this site, there's a lot of positives, but there's some questions I want answered, is I feel like this side of the development is very separated from the west side of Leslie. And so we talk about being a complete community. And if that's really the case, and this is going to be a condo type development, families are going to be there with their kids and so forth. And so there needs to have some sort of amenity or some form of community feel within that project that's going to make them feel like they belong. Because let's face it, they're all going to get in their strollers and want to cross the other side to Leslie Street where all the schools and the parks are. And I just don't feel like that's a very safe environment. I do like the fact that you do back onto some forest and environmental area and there's some positive there. But I feel like you can do better with the amenity space that you presented with us today. So I don't know who wants to answer that.
Mr. Pelleggi?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I think I meant to mention that when I got to the site plan. So we are looking at the site plan currently to see what areas where we can beef up the amenity, if there's any opportunities to provide better connections. There's sort of a couple of triangular areas that connect to the natural heritage area to the south. If there's opportunities, both formal or informal, there is some grading on the site. I think probably everybody knows the Addison Hall area a little bit. So there's some grading challenges there. So we're definitely looking at that. We're also going to look at the 20-meter separation between the units and the building to the east and see if there's anything formal that we can look at there. So I think the comment is a valid one, and we're certainly looking at it to see where we can improve things.
Counselor?
Thank you. And if I just make a comment about that on the west side of that property, or sorry, the east side of that property with the 20-meter setback. And if that's something you're considering, obviously that's going to be a big factor for me in deciding what to do come community of the whole, if that's where we end up tonight. And I would like to see some investment when it comes to hardscape activity or equipment of some sort. Considering the intention of this is to be a condo development, there's got to be some ownership to that. And it can't just be a blanket field with a bench. Like, that's just not good enough. And I want to see some intentional work there to make it feel like it's part of that community. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Weiss?
Yes, thanks. And thanks to Councillor Gilliland. I ticked off a number. I too am concerned about the amenity space because that wasn't mentioned in your presentation. You also didn't mention anything about the variance in the front setback and the height, the increased height of these 3 meters over. But this is somewhat of an outlier, and it's not going to be compared to others adjacent to it because they're quite a distance away. So the thing that I'm still concerned about is the employment land issue, and I'm really looking forward to the reports from Mr. Ramuno on this. But my question on that is that, are we getting too tight? Is we getting too much of a risk on this? Because this is a precedent-setting thing, meaning this is the first in that area. And will we see another one coming through that will put us at risk for our job targets? And so I'm looking forward to that report. And if you have something to help me with that, I would appreciate that. Through you, Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno.
Mr. Ramuno?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. As I mentioned, the Addison, the immediate sort of Addison Park, business park area, I think Mr. Pelleggi mentioned that plan of subdivision had about 33 registered employment blocks. We've got about 12 or 13 of those blocks that have been developed, constructed with employment uses. Most of them are multi-unit employment uses. So the majority of them are still vacant. So as I mentioned, I think not only in this Addison Park area, but even further north, either side of St. John's, and a few vacant blocks along Industrial Parkway, we've got over 100 hectares. So based on how they're going to develop out, we should be able to meet and likely exceed our forecast. What I can mention is that we've been dealing with a couple recent applications within the Addison Park area. And what we're seeing is we're not seeing your typical sort of big box warehouse with limited jobs and just big floor plates. We're seeing a lot of smaller multi-unit type of office developments, but we're also seeing a couple of recent sort of office buildings are coming in, head offices with 50, 100 jobs in them. So we've got one that just came in the other day with about 50 jobs, head office, and another one who's just purchased another block within Addison Hall is a North American head office. So what we're seeing is more intensive uses with our employment areas, which means our job numbers will just rise.
Thank you. Okay. The only other thing I'd like to ask is through you probably to Councillor Kim, the lack of comments from the public, either adjacent or across the street. So I know you were at the community information meeting. I was not, but since then, have you heard, because we haven't seen anything elsewhere, have you heard any comments from residents in favor or against this through you to Councillor Kim?
Councillor Kim?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Weiss, I have reached out to the members of the community who would be impacted, and I had no comments from most of them, or they were indifferent. And I think it was mentioned earlier, I was at the community open house, and no one was present.
Councillor?
That's all I have now.
Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I too am concerned and need more in-depth or an analysis of a conversion of employment lands to residential, especially in that area there. If this was some type of an outlier near other residential or in an area where we really want to develop, it'd be very different. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, sorry, before I ask that, just generally in terms of the public and all that, my view of this is one of those applications that we don't necessarily get resident input. It's one of those applications that it's reliant on us to oversee all of Aurora and its development versus any particular neighborhood. This is a global issue versus a particular neighborhood or any residents that would be concerned. I'm not surprised no one is here or at the other meeting, but it's our responsibility to make these decisions responsibly with all the information we can possibly get. And on that note, is it possible, first of all, is that study being peer reviewed through you, Mr. Mayor?
Just remember.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the employment land analysis isn't. I mean, it's something that we're looking at in-house ourselves with our economic development staff. We have the sort of the expertise and the information with respect to, what we need to verify is, how many blocks are still vacant and what our current job numbers are, and then sort of project out with respect to, are we able to meet our long-term projections? So that's something that we can handle in-house here. And as I mentioned, I think we have a pretty good handle on how many businesses we currently have, in this immediate business park, but also, throughout our employment area in town. But again, I'll be able to provide council with a full analysis on our on how we see our employment land developing out a long-term with respect to meeting our long-term forecasts. in a future report.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, is that study available to us or to the public?
Mr. Romano?
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, it is. And I think it may be on our website. If it's not, we can certainly make that available and send it out to council as well.
Where through you, Mr. Mayor, where would the public find that?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll have it on website.
Antonio, is it on the website?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's not on the town's website, but it has been requested by two residents in which I provided them the study. I could definitely share the study with council if needed.
Counselor?
So it's not available to the public. It would be available to us if we request it. Is there a way of putting these somewhere that's accessible to the public?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we could definitely have it up on the website.
Perfect. Thank you. In terms of I was a little unclear on the 20 or 23 feet buffer between the residents on the east side to industrial units. Can someone just be a little more clear? Does that mean like from lot line to lot line? Is that from building to building? Through you, Mr. Mayor?
Mr.
Sure, through you, Mr. Mayor. So it's from the eastern property line, so not the building on the east side, but from the east property line, there's a 20-meter buffer. So that area is totally clear. And then I said the face of the building was 23 meters. So if you were to look a little more clearly at the site plan, what you'll see is there's like a couple steps in front of the building and then a sidewalk. And the 20-meter line comes basically to the steps. And then there's about another 3 meters before the face of the building. So it's 23 meters to the face of the building from the eastern property line. And then the building that's proposed on the east side is another 3 meters setback. There's no like driveways or loading areas or anything on that side, just man doors on a blank wall.
So for you, Mr. Mayor,
And
it's
it's
Counselor, I think Mr. Romano wanted to add to that. So just, Mr. Romano, go ahead.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to add, it may not have been mentioned, but one of the reasons for that buffer is that the applicants required to meet the Ministry of the Environment provincial noise guidelines as well. So it's something that we'll need to assure is being addressed.
that was one of my other questions. Is it compliant with either our current zoning, that distance? I mean, and if I understand correctly, so 23 plus 3, so 26 meters from building to building?
Mr. Pelleggi?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it's the 20 meters is the requirement from the ministry for the noise, which is, that's why I'm saying that 20 meters is clear. The 3 meters is a private setback on the east side, like to the other building. And then we have additional space beyond the 20 meters proposed in front of the building.
Counselor?
So 26 meters from building to
Total
building?
26 meters, sure.
So about 65 feet. So probably from here, just past that counter outside there.
Yeah,
65
through you,
feet.
Mr. Mayor, probably closer to 75 to 80 feet, I think, but
26 feet.
26 meters,
23
yeah.
meters is 58 feet.
It's 3.14, right? 2 points.
Sorry, you're right. $23 is 75 feet. Yeah. So 20 is the provincial requirement. Okay. Do we have any other samples through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Romano of a similar setup of residential adjacent to industrial in town?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we haven't had many conversions in Aurora, like a lot of municipalities. We've dealt with a couple since I've been here. I mean, the last couple would have been, the one on the old Timber Lane Tennis Club on Vandorf, right on the south side. We went through that process about 10, 15 years ago with the Van Rob building to the north. And so we had to ensure that they comply with the MOE guidelines, because again, that was the employment land on the north side of Vandorf. The other one we dealt with would have been, on our promenade, northwest corner of Young and Wellington, the old collision auto body when the stacked townhouses were built, and the collision auto body was a source of noise emissions. So we had to deal with that as well at that time. So this will probably be the third one. And again, as part of our analysis, not only do we have to address because it is a policy change, we need to ensure that our employment forecasts aren't impacted. We also have to ensure that the Ministry of the Environment noise guidelines are adhered to. And again, as Mr. Pileggi mentioned, they've incorporated that 20-meter buffer to deal with the lands to the immediate east. The other thing I want to add, I'm not sure if it came up, when this Addison Hall Business Park was developed, it is a little unique in that as you move east of Leslie Street, the lands are sort of tiered. So those immediate lands and these two blocks in front of us this evening over to Monarch Gate are on a lower tiered. And then as you move further east, the employment lands are on a raised tier. So there's a bit of a grade difference as well as you move east. These are a lot lower, almost at a little higher than the Leslie Street grade. But as you move east along Addison Hall, just east of Monarch Park Circle, the lands raise and sort of two-tiered.
Council.
Thank you. In terms of the conversion and the study we currently have, you had mentioned through Mr. Runo that, we have some applications coming forward for head offices that have higher employment percentage than we would have anticipated. I think we could probably all agree that it's a moving target, and it's extremely hard to actually pinpoint. Those could be the last ones and then nothing else. And then we have big boxes that have 3 or 4 people in them. Do you feel that and I'm not disparaging staff and their abilities at all, it's just such an important thing. Do you feel that there might be a necessity for an outside peer review of that study?
Mr.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I mean, again, certainly hear council's concerns, and something that we can certainly send out and get peer reviewed. I don't have an issue with that. We'll work with a peer reviewer to provide the information that we have. So it's something that we can certainly do. The other thing I'll mention, one reason that, I mentioned that staff is pretty confident that we can provide this analysis, because the blocks within that registered plan, they're all relatively small. They range from 2 to 5 acre lot sizes. So what we've been seeing there are smaller offices, multi-unit, sort of commercial or industrial type units. The largest sort of 10-acre blocks are reserved along that 404 frontage. So, it's very unlikely we're going to get large floor plate warehousing with limited number of jobs. What we've been seeing there are multi-unit type industrial buildings with sort of head offices that generate more sort of jobs per, square foot. But again, certainly I have no problem with having the employment land analysis sent out for peer review. A second opinion is always good to have.
Council.
And the reason I asked that is because, I want to give every application, the best shot possible. And I'd hate to get here if this moves to the next phase and that information is lacking, and we end up making a decision because we don't have proper information, or that information is questioned. So let's make sure we check all our boxes, make sure everything is in line, and we can move from there.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Thompson.
Thank you. Some of the same points I have already been mentioned, so I won't spend too long about it. Just in terms of, I guess, comments in general for the report, if council approves going forward to GC. I thought the applicant had a good slide with regards to the employment land conversion, where he identified that it is possible provided it met the following criteria, and he had various bullet points. And I think it'd be helpful for all of us and for the public as well, if that, if this were to move to the next phase, and when a report came, it took those bullet points and provided just clear information to show how it has met the various criteria with respect to, need for conversion, confirmation that there's sufficient land available, that there's no adverse effect. While some of this information I did know was in the reports and it's been discussed tonight, I think that if we could put it in clear and simple language to check those boxes all off in a future report, that would be helpful. I agree with the comments around the table with regards to parkland and or amenity space. I think some further conversations there would be good. I know there is some parkland to the east, or should say to the west of Leslie. And so, perhaps we can also look at it in a broader context, but again, 183 townhomes, if you assume it's 2.5 people in each townhome, it's 400 people, and they will be families and they will be kids. And so where will the kids go to play? And so let's look at it not just from the site itself, but in the broader context of the neighboring parkettes that are around them. The third piece really was, and they showed a picture with regards to examples of the built form, a little concerned with regards to, what appears to be the width of the streets. And I can't help but think about some of the other subdivisions, condominium subdivisions that we have, specifically Woodhaven and others. We've had some lessons learned with respect to parking, visitor parking, traffic flow amongst those streets. I think that it would be good for us to have those conversations with the applicant as well, from the learnings that we've gathered from it, just to be able to, be proactive and ensure that we're not repeating some of the same issues that came up out of those developments for this one as well. And those are my comments.
Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can't disagree with any of the comments that were made, and I'm actually in agreement with everything that was said this evening, whether from a macro, land perspective or the micro needs of the families who will be moving in there. Certainly, we don't want to see just the minimum threshold being surpassed, but we would like to have sufficient all these metrics, whether it be visitor parking or the width of the streets, as Councillor Thompson has mentioned. I hope that all these metrics and all these actual things that will be built to, make it a great place to live for future families. I hope that it's not just the bare minimum, but it passes sufficiently the minimum threshold. I am reminded of, being an investment person, I'm always reminded about the U.S. Federal Reserve's dual mandate, which is, price stability and employment. And I think about, any time when an applicant comes in to change employment lands to residential, it's been said already this evening that, we have a dual mandate to ensure that we provide sufficient jobs locally, as well as provide sufficient supply of housing. And I know that over the last couple of years, we've talked about having sufficient supply of housing, having intensification. So those are the two perspectives that we have to look at, and where's that fine line. I'm also reminded that when you're looking at development and home construction, there's a huge amount of job creation that comes with that. When you look at in 2024, 143.4 billion in GDP in Canada was by home construction, providing a lot of jobs. And you look at the trickle down effect of new residents coming in here, that will in itself bring jobs to local retailers, restaurants, plumbers, and other contractors. So there is a trickle down effect that residential housing does create intrinsically jobs in itself. So I think there's sufficient enough here that's tabled to get this moved over to committee of the whole. But certainly, I think the applicant has sufficient comments made by council that certainly they should address and staff should come back to us with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with all of the comments of my colleagues. Through you to Mr. Muno. Mr. Muno, the province used to have a conversion policy, a policy speaking to conversion of employment lands to housing. Do we still have that?
Mr. Renee.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it's changed somewhat.
Your mic's on.
You're not on.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It's changed somewhat since Bill 23 a couple of years ago, and the region losing their planning responsibilities. So with the new provincial policy statement and the growth plan, which has now been collapsed into the provincial planning statement, council's the approval authority for any employment land conversions. So we still need to meet the same tests through an official plan amendment. So we need to ensure that there is a need for conversion, and that if the redesignation happens, it's not going to impact our long-term viability to achieve our long-term employment forecasts. But we don't need to go through that regional comprehensive review of a regional OP update every 5 years. So that's what's changed. So it rests solely with the local council, but again, still need to go through the scrutiny of evaluating that there is a need for the conversion. And if the conversion does happen, if council approves the conversion, it will not impact our, again, long-term viability, achieve our employment numbers through this process, amending our official plan.
Counselor.
Thank you. So council has to decide in its wisdom whether this is appropriate for the future of our community. Thank you. On page 3 of the report, it says that the municipality has sufficient employment land to accommodate projected employment growth to the horizon of the approved official plan. But what I believe the report and the consultant is also saying is that we have enough to the 2051 horizon.
Mr. Romano?
To you, Mr. Mayor.
It could just be a yes or no.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So our analysis shows that, yes, the town will exceed even with the conversion here.
Thank you. Thank you. So, of course, what the other speakers at the table have said is very important. We need to find a way to ensure that. And I think that information is going to be provided will that be provided in advance through you, Mr. Mayor? Will that be provided in advance of the committee of the whole meeting if this goes to the?
Mr. Romano?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I'll certainly provide that full analysis in the future report, but I can certainly provide that information in advance to council for your review prior to the committee date.
Thank you. That would be good. On page, I believe it's 9, talking about comments. Of course, the amenity space is important. I've never quite seen anything like the amenity space that's on the plan, the subdivision plan. It's maybe it's space to be sitting or relaxing, but there's certainly no place really for children to play. And of course, we will have children here. Also, the concern is availability of municipal serving capacity, and there are a lot of developments, I believe, waiting for that servicing capacity. So this is just added to that chain. And we don't know how much capacity we're going to get or even when we're going to get it. Do you have any idea when we will know about the servicing capacity?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we're expecting a report this fall from the region.
Counselor?
We're expecting a report from this fall from the region. And when that comes in, we will provide council with a status update on that regional report.
Counselor?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and the number of homes that are waiting for that servicing approval. So we'll know, I mean, there may be some that we can approve, but it depends where this is on the list. So there may not be serving capacity for this in the near future. The 12,000 jobs, that is a minimum requirement? Through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Muno.
Yes, so you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. Those numbers are minimums. Our current official plan identifies that by 2051, our minimum employment job number is for 41,000. We are currently at approximately 30,000. So I think what you've heard Mr. Pileggi say is based on their employment land analysis that we could probably we'll probably see an additional 12,000 jobs that will take us beyond that 41, closer to 42 or 43,000 jobs minimum. And again, if council directs me to report back, I will provide additional information based on our analysis.
Counselor?
Thank you. In my opinion, we have to err on the side of caution. This is high quality employment uses. High quality employment uses bring in full-time jobs, well-paying jobs with benefits and pension, hopefully. And yes, we need this for our residents. We are trying. Our motto is to live, work, and play in Aurora. And right now, a lot of people are not working in Aurora. So if we can provide these high quality jobs, that will be a big benefit to our community. I certainly agree with the amenity space and also with the precedent setting. This worries me. That's all for now.
Counselor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you. Just hearing a lot of comments around the table, and I know that hopefully we're going to be pushing this forward to future committee of the whole and have a report back with all the concerns. But just reminiscing and saying words like reminds me of. I just want to say reminds me of the Young and Edward location with the Smart Center application and the employment lands. Reminds me of the Bayview and St. John's area with the parking lot with the other development there. So we also have to take in consideration that there are other employment lands that are on the table for this type of conversion. I was in support of both of those concepts as well. And I can't wait. I hope Smart Centers comes back with an application because so far that property is sitting empty. And I certainly don't want to stand in the way of any future development. But we need to start thinking about the future. And if we are setting a precedence, we have to think about what precedence that's going to set later for other opportunities in our community as well. When we're thinking about allocation, we're thinking about our employment conversion. So while this application looks great, and I would love to see this go forward, we also have to keep in mind that this council also put the brakes on putting applications forward for these other two locations. And you know what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I'm being consistent in saying that I was supportive of that, and I will be supportive of moving this forward. And I hope that we stay consistent with the things that we're saying around the table tonight.
Thank you. And just to buttress that point, maybe from a different perspective, but through you, Mr. Mayor, when we do this analysis, are we only looking at Addison Hall, or are we looking all of the town of Aurora? You had mentioned, Mr. Muno, some examples of these conversions. We just heard of some others. Do we take all of them into account? Like we should probably have a list of everything we've done, including converting employment lands to recreational. Are we taking all of those into account, or only the Addison Park site? Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So when we do our analysis, we'll look at our entire employment area within the town with respect to, what's vacant, what can be intensified in order to demonstrate can we achieve our long-term employment forecasts. Again, just to be clear, this is the only application that we're dealing with that is a conversion. I think Councillor Gilliland mentioned, smart centers by the 404 and Wellington, but we don't, I think they came in at one time to talk to us, but we don't have a formal application. We don't really have any formal conversions. We have the promenade. That wasn't a conversion, but part of the promenade lands on the east side of Yonge, some of those were converted when we updated our official plan back in 2010. So, and then a couple of the Mavernack blocks, they were also sort of converted as part of the regional comprehensive review a few years ago. So we really haven't dealt with, a conversion. This is one of the first ones. But again, when I do report back, I understand, I hear council's concern about precedent setting. You've heard me say this before to council that, we'll deal with each application on its merits. And if there are other applications that come forward, we'll deal with that, maybe conversions. We'll deal with those on its merits, ensure that they're not impacting our long-term projections. But currently, this is the only application that we have that is a conversion of employment land.
Councillor?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. When was the last time we did kind of a global study of this? It certainly wasn't 2010. Was it the last last OP review that we looked at everything that was done up to that date? Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. That's correct. It would have been during our 2024 approval of our official plan.
Councillor?
That's when we did an analysis of
Land
all our
budget.
employment lands and okay.
Correct.
So it's pretty recent. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Shortly after I was first elected, I learned from our consultant DC study that residential does not pay for residential, which means, and residents say, oh, the town wants all these new homes so they can get more taxes. But what it actually means is that we have to subsidize these new residents, and that's why we have things like DCs. And with development charges being so changed by the province in the last, 2 years, I want to be very careful about the number of residential units we build in town, because the DCs are an unknown at this point and we depend on them. This is not an area that is designated for intensification. And I'm not sure why the developer chose this area, but to me, it seems a very strange place to put it. I do like the layout with the way the entrance exit. There's 2 of those on Addison Hall Circle. I really like that. I really don't think that this is an appropriate place for residential. And the other thing is, it's employment land. We need that employment land. We need those taxes to subsidize the residential taxes. And as a municipality, we don't have a lot of employment land. A lot of municipalities around us have a lot more, and that brings them these taxes that helps offset the residential taxes. So I'm certainly not in favor of this conversion. I know from the comments around council that this will go to a committee of the whole, but I think we definitely need to think that this area was planned for high quality employment. That means high quality jobs, and we need those. I don't think we need more residential of this type, especially in this area, so I will be voting against it.
Any other comments, questions? Call the vote. Carries. Confirming bylaw. Councillor Weiss, second. Councillor Ken, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Gallo, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.